Gender inequality continues to be a pressing social issue in the Philippines, despite significant progress in education, labor rights, and legislation. According to the World Economic Forum 2020, the Global Gender Gap report ranked the country 16th out of 153 nations in terms of gender parity. Yet women and gender minorities still face unequal treatment in economic participation, wages, and representation in leadership roles. These disparities are not merely statistical. They manifest in unequal access to resources, limited decision-making power, and persistent stereotypes that influence both personal and professional opportunities. One of the most persistent issues in the gender wage gap, with women earning less than men across almost all sectors despite having similar or even higher educational attainment. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority 2021, the wage gap remains at approximately 18%. Beyond income, women and gender minorities are underrepresented in leadership positions, face occupational segregation, and are often excluded from industries deemed male-dominated. According to the Philippine Institution for Development Studies, gender-based discrimination in hiring, promotion, and benefits continues to hinder career advancement and economic independence. Inequality is also evident in non-economic areas, such as education choices, political participation, and access to healthcare. While girls in the Philippines have high school enrollment rates, cultural expectations still influence career paths, pushing them toward traditional and often lower-paying fields. Women's representation in political leadership remains low, and gender-based violence, including harassment and domestic abuse, continues to be a widespread issue. These problems create an environment where systematic barriers are reinforced generation after generation. In communities like Toril, Davao City, personal accounts of gender inequality often go untold. Yet, they reveal the depth of the problem beyond national data.
Tahanan. Para sa karamihan, ito ay maituturing na ligtas na lugar. Pero ang realidad, maraming babae ang biktima ng karahasan sa loob mismo ng kanilang bahay.
Women and men must enjoy equal opportunities, choices, capabilities, power, and knowledge as equal citizens. But
in every city, voices rise, some loud, some quiet, and others never heard at all. The real Davao City strides with life and progress, but beneath its steady rhythm lies a truth that too often goes unnoticed: the struggle against gender inequality. It is not just about who earns more, who leads, or who follows. It is about dignity, about the right to be seen, respected, and valued equally.
This is a story of unheard voices. Voices that reveal how inequality still shapes lives in subtle, enduring ways.
Gender inequality is not an abstract idea. It is the daily decisions made by employers, by families, by institutions that decides who deserves more and who must wait. According to the Philippine Statistic Authority 2021, the wage gap still favors men, even as women carry both professional and domestic burdens.
I work the same long hours as the men, and we do the same work on the same floor. We lift the same boxes, we breathe the same heat, but when payday comes, they earn more than I do. So when I asked why, they said that men do harder work. Yet we stand in the same place. We do the same job. My back aches too. As their back aches, my hands get tired too. So it feels like no matter how hard I work, my effort doesn't count the same way as theirs does. Not because I do less, but because I am a woman. And the pay gap tells me my time is worth less than I am worthless. And that's the inequality I face.
Her words echo the silent exhaustion of many people who endure quietly because speaking up often leads nowhere.
Inequality begins long before adulthood. It starts in classrooms, in jokes, in subtle lessons that tell young minds what they can or cannot be.
Actually, it hurts when they say, "Oh, that's a man's curse." I study hard because I want to prove that intelligence has no gender. But sometimes I ask myself, why must I prove it at all?
Her question pierces the heart of the issue. Gender equality is not just about opportunity, it's about freedom from having to justify your dreams. For many women, inequality does not stay at work or in school. It follows them home. Domestic violence and emotional control are forms of inequality too, often hidden, dismissed, or normalized.
For years, I thought silence was survival, but I realized silence was the cage. When I finally spoke up, I found others who were living the same pain. We were all waiting for someone to say, "You deserve peace."
Behind every statistic is a person carrying an invisible scar. Equality cannot exist while fear remains part of someone's daily life. Gender norms define who leads, who follows, who decides, but they can be unlearned. In Toril's marketplace, quiet revolutions happen every day.
Before, we relied only on our husbands for decisions. Now, more women run their stalls, handle money, and even lead organizations. But some still think women should stay home. Change is slow, but it's happening. One stand, one sale, one conversation at a time.
Change does not always arrive with loud movements. Sometimes, it begins in markets, in kitchens, and small spaces where courage quietly grows. True equality cannot exist without men who understands its meaning. It is not a fight between genders. It is called for shared humanity.
As a father, how do you see your role in promoting gender equality?
I have 2 daughters. I tell them their value doesn't depend on any man's approval. I may not earn much, but I want them to know they can dream higher than I ever did. Equality starts with how we raise our children, with what we teach our sons about respect.
When fathers teach equality, they plant the roots of change that no system can erase. Gender inequality is not a women's issue. It is a human issue. It touches every home, every school, every workplace. And while laws can be written, real equality begins in the heart, in the willingness to listen, to unlearn, and to change.
So to those whose voices were silenced, know this, your story matters. To those who listens, may you never turn away from discomfort, because it is where empathy begins.
Inequality does not begin in laws or systems. It begins in the mind, in how we think, how we perceive, and in the quiet ways we choose who is worthy and who is not. Every bias starts as a thought, and every act of compassion begins there too. Because change doesn't only happen outside us, it happens within us, the moment we question why we see things the way we do.
When we understand others, we begin to understand ourselves. Empathy is not weakness, it is awareness. It is the quiet strength that breaks centuries of silence.
Gender equality is not a battle between a man and a woman. It is a reconciliation between the heart and the mind. It asks us to unlearn what limits us and to remember that respect is not earned by status but given by humanity.
If we all learn to see beyond gender, we'd realize that every person carries the same longing to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. And maybe then the world would be softer and kinder.